And here's your prescription.
I know just the pharmacy to get this filled.
Who are you?
A pharmacy benefit manager. A middleman your insurer uses to decide which medicines you can get, what you pay, and sometimes even which pharmacy you should go to.
Why can't I go to a pharmacy in my neighborhood?
Because I make more money when you go to a pharmacy I own.
No one should stand between you and your medicine. Visit phrma.org/middleman to learn more. Paid for by Pharma.
We're coming, and we ain't backing down.
We don't need a bunch of cats in here looking in the mirror.
Everybody just do your job! You understand that?
Hey, will you shut up?
I'm bitterly disappointed with the officiating today.
Guys being dudes.
And they run through our like through a tin horn, man.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Les. Alex Kirshner. How was that week of college football, buddy?
Well, much like the week in the world, it was long. It was interesting. Ultimately, it ended with a lot of people very happy and a lot of people sad. But I'll tell you, I didn't personally feel too bad about it.
Amen, brother. This podcast is going to be short, though. Let's put 30 minutes on the clock. 3, 2, 1. Notre Dame 47, Clemson 40. You heard it right. Notre Dame won this football game. Notre Dame bodied them up front. Tommy Rees coached his ass off, breaking tendencies. Kyron Williams made some money last night in pass protection. He was the best pass protector by PFF grade that Notre Dame had on the field. Ian Book, insane in his pocket movement. Honestly, the guy played, it's his best game as a Notre Dame quarterback. It's their best game this century, probably. I was so impressed with Notre Dame. Notre Dame won this football game.
They did. I think Ian Book completely changes the way, and we talk about narrative on this podcast a lot, the way that he will be remembered as a college quarterback. He goes from a guy who we will all wonder about, like, should they have kept the other guy who transferred to Boston College? Like, he was good, but, they kind of just limped to the playoff with him, and maybe they could have done better even though he won a lot of games, to now really cool college quarterback who I am going to overhype when it's his draft time and who I am going to root for when he comes into games as an NFL backup for years, and who Notre Dame fans will look back on as the guy who led them to as exciting a regular season win or a win period as any college football team has had, I really think, this century. It does not get a lot better than a double overtime win in prime time on your own field against the number one team in the program, in the country, that has won multiple recent national championships.
Everything.
It was a great game. I think that I would like to bring on now just an officer of the podcast to read a statement for the podcast. If y'all could make sure that your microphones are in position. This is Stephen Godfrey, the sports information director for Split Zone Duo. Stephen.
Good morning. I know it was a long night last night for a lot of Americans, and we are here today to establish the record. I'd like to make an official statement on behalf of Split Zone Duo, if everyone's ready. Notre Dame football is as relevant as anything else is in the year 2020. Trevor Lawrence's absence, that's the Clemson quarterback, obviously, should not be the dominant theme when we discuss this game. This game was Notre Dame winning, not Clemson losing. Furthermore, Notre Dame can win the Atlantic Coast Conference as a member, which would merit a legitimate playoff inclusion. We will not be taking any further questions at this time. We accept these results, and we concede. May God bless America, and God bless our troops.
How's that for personal growth?
Folks, that's all the time we have for today.
Dude, you cannot watch this game and say Notre Dame did not. Primarily because Notre Dame in the first half, I thought, put them in position to lose this game, right? They traded 3s for 7s. Technically, on offense, they weren't really that good in the second half. I think Clemson sort of stepped up and was able to sort of stymie them. It was the script where you're like, okay, Clemson pulls it out again. Clemson pulls out another one of these one-possession games where they get shocked and Clemson's just the best team in the country, yada, yada, yada. That did not happen. And I want to speak before Alex to spin it to him. Dude, the fumble 6, the pick 6, whatever you want to call it, by Wusu Koroma, insane play recognition, insane closing speed. I cannot sing the praise of Notre Dame in this game enough. Great win.
I would quickly also sing the praises, though he lost, of DJ Uiagalelei. True freshman. He's a top 10 quarterback in college football, I think easily. 29 of 44 for 439 and 2 touchdowns, and looked every bit that good.
Shout out to Tony Elliott.
Yeah.
Shout out to Tony Elliott, by the way. Put him in positions to be successful. Rollouts, sprint outs, shrink the field, and let him high-low read on the short side of the field. It means he doesn't have to process a ton. I mean, he is ready, and he's not a finished product yet.
Richard, I have one quick question on the fumble 6. Let's like deconstruct some cliches here. That is an example of, one, the athleticism of the player, but also when that doesn't happen unless he knows that that particular play is coming, which is a merit of good coaching and good film study, right? So this is like when all things converge, right?
Yes, he absolutely knew that play was coming. I think he was sort of freelancing. I also think he shocked Travis Etienne. I don't think Etienne, when you really see it, they run a Skycam angle, Etienne, for like a split second, takes his eye off the ball because he hears the footsteps and he senses there's somebody in his kitchen. And he takes his eye off it for 1 second, and then he bungles it, obviously, and he catches it and runs the other way. It was really everything. And he said after the game, he was like, we saw it on film, we alerted, we knew it was coming, and we proceeded.
Anyway, great win for Notre Dame. No one will have a greater win all year. One that was close.
Disagree.
Go ahead.
Disagree that no one will have a greater win this year, because let's talk about it, baby. Florida 44, Georgia 28. Oh my God. Have I waited? Holy
Let's let him go.
Have I waited for
Let's
a
let him
win
go.
like that? Have I waited for a day like that of Florida football? There is a little bit bittersweet, honestly, because of what the pandemic has taken from us, honestly. I wasn't in Jacksonville for that game. I wasn't with my friends. There's a little bit of me that wishes I was with my people, man. That was God, I cannot get over how exceptionally Florida played this game in the first half. Florida's game plan in this game, Dan Mullen coached his ass off in this game. There's a thing here, and we said this a couple weeks ago with Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina gets running backs vertical in the vertical passing game, right? And that is a way that they attack defenses. That's what Florida did in this game. And I don't know where they saw this, because I this morning I picked through the Alabama game. I picked through the LSU game last year, the SEC Championship game last year. And I wasn't really able to see where a team got at Georgia like this. Maybe it's on film somewhere. But Florida, this was not a bug. This was a feature of the pass game, was these running backs going out. Now, obviously, they built most of it on the wheel routes, but there's a couple HB angles. There's a couple legitimate swing passes. There's a couple times when running backs flexed out and he runs up. More than anything, I think what happened was they were able to break Georgia's rules with the running back in the passing game. Essentially, Florida had 5 receiving threats in every pattern. Now, they got there a little bit differently, but that's how LSU got Georgia last year. 5 credible receiving threats in the pattern, and that's just tough to stop. I think Florida broke Georgia's rules and broke Georgia's very complex defense with some simplicity and some athleticism. And also, Kyle Trask, for his faults, he almost he almost brought Georgia back in the game with that drop pick 6 that he would have walked in. Kyle Trask was laying that thing out there on those wheel routes and dropping those things in a bucket all afternoon. To Todd Monken and Georgia's credit, Georgia schemed their tail off on offense. Guys, Florida has issues on the back end in the secondary, legitimate issues. Look, we'll get to the SEC Championship game when we get there. Alabama's going to dog walk this team because of that stuff, but this is not about that. If Georgia had half a quarterback, they pull off the comeback. There's open receivers all over the place in the second half. Georgia's defense played in the second half as good as you could expect given the circumstances. Georgia's defense gave Georgia a way to win, and that's got to be gutting to be a Georgia defensive player. It's got to be really, really gutting to give your offense a path to come back in this game and have them not be able to pull it off. But Florida, Spencer calls this playing on tilt, right? When you just hit everything, when you have the perfect game plan and you execute perfectly and you win the game. You guys know I'm excited. I mean, I'm thrilled.
I can feel the excitement in your voice.
Take a breath.
Great for Dan Mullen, too.
Take a breath.
Is like, when he's not doing COVID denialism things, is having an amazing season, in my opinion.
This is, I went back and checked this morning again because it's very hard to have symmetry when your two tenures are Mississippi State and Florida, where you're sort of granted every available advantage, and then you're also you're sort of crafting your own luck against every odd. But this is probably the biggest win of his career, in my opinion. I mean, the only other argument that I could see, and the narrative that was built against him, was that he just failed in big moments. He failed to topple giants, and he also failed to really, when he was a giant, when he even got State to that point, they failed down the stretch in 2014 against Alabama and Ole Miss. But this, to me, this is a bigger win because it is Florida. Then he had a run at Mississippi State in 2014 that really got him this job. He beat top 10 LSU, top 10 Texas A&M, and top 10 Auburn in the same month. This is different because that was a momentum thing. That was a usurper team. That was something that was surprising. This was following through. And I'm sure I could tee Richard up here to talk for the next year about what Mullen's expectations, or rather what Florida's expectations for Mullen are, but this is something that you could potentially shed all of the narrative that you're a second-place Florida concept to a superior Georgia program. This was, it's only been a day, but I think as we stretch through recruiting, going into this cycle, we don't know what's going to happen with COVID. This changes Florida for the better in a way in which I have not seen. I don't even know, Richard. You tell me.
You had to win this one, right? The injuries. Lewis Cine goes out in the first half. They blocked pretty well, honestly, all things considered. Georgia's very good front and very rotating front. You had to win this game. This is about the way Dan Mullen has retrofitted this offense with weapons, right? Kyle Pitts goes out, and I think that's the reason, honestly, why Florida really struggled in the second half. Kyle Pitts goes out injured, and Kyle Trask didn't really have the outlet to bail him out. Georgia said Kadarius Toney is not beating us, no chance, and they were right about that. That is a credit to how Dan Mullen has retrofitted this offense with tools. They have different ways to beat opponents, and it showed on Saturday against the best team in the country. This is what Nick Saban's talking about when he says offense has outstripped defense.
I just want to say real fast, I've been critical of Mullen the entire time he was at Florida because I didn't think he was big enough for that job. The offense this year and the offense yesterday has convinced me if they fix the defense, which means a new defensive coordinator next year, then I'm completely bought in.
One thing, and this is sort of an evolving thing that I'll be thinking about. All of those wheels, all of those running back stuff, all of that stuff was to the boundary side of Georgia's defense, to the boundary. Something to think about.
Fascinating. I do want to make a quick point here that Richard is not the only host of this podcast who roots for a team that currently has one loss and will make the playoff if it wins out. My Maryland Terrapins did not overlook Penn State ahead of Ohio State next week. I'm proud that we took care of business against a program we should beat that hasn't won a game all year. Obviously, Penn State's got some things to figure out, and they're not quite at the level that Maryland is yet. But Maryland 35, Penn State 19. Don't worry about it, Nits. You'll get there within a few years. This was an ass-kicking. 35-7 this was at one point. It was not as close as the final score looked. Penn State scored two garbage time touchdowns, including one literally at the buzzer that did not matter. A blowout. And we pretty much the entire game just kicked their asses both up front and on the perimeter. Maryland's 5-star freshman receiver, Raheem Jarrett, had identical, basically long touchdowns on slants where Penn State just could not catch him. Talia Tagovailoa has had now 2 weeks in a row of probably the best Maryland QB games in a decade. A weird but true thing is that Maryland has at least 4 NFL players on the offense. Certainly 3 and maybe 4 or 5. I have no idea what to make of it. I have no idea what to make of the Big Ten, but I am going to start field testing a take that the second, third, and fourth best teams in the Big Ten are Indiana, Northwestern, and Maryland, because that pleases me. I'm just going to do it and see how it goes.
So damn proud.
Speaking
proud
of Indiana, they beat another downtrodden Big Ten program that is a long way away, and the Hoosiers took care of business 38-21 against Michigan. Indiana is more talented than Michigan. I don't think that I'm serious. I'm dead serious. It does not bear. They are more talented than them at receiver than Michigan is at cornerback. Let's put it that way. And I also think Michael,
which is a problem when you play defense the way they do, and I agree with you.
And sometimes that's a whole football game.
And that was this whole football game. Yes. I mean, Michigan certainly, if you run down the rosters, they have considerably more 4- and 5-star talent. And I don't really mean that Indiana has more talent all over the roster, but Indiana's receivers are legitimately just better than Michigan's defensive backs. We talked about last week.
The two early touchdowns, I'm not sure as a DB how you can play those balls better. I mean, I'm not sure how you play those balls better, and the receivers won.
Shades of Minnesota last year and Minnesota the year before that, like early PJ Minnesota, where it was like the coaches in the Big Ten that I would talk to during rumor season, it was like they were just really, really good on the outside, and like when if we ended up one-on-one, we knew we were losing those matchups, and that's in a really simplified way what Indiana's doing.
I love Indiana because Tom Allen is a go-for-2 in the win coach, and we don't have enough of them. Also, like the ceiling is pretty high on this Indiana season. Like, I mean, their next game is at Michigan State. They should win that game, and who knows what happens if Ohio State is in fact. They struggled a bit with Rutgers this weekend, and we won't spend much time on it. If they're a little wonky, I don't know. I'm just saying.
Rose Bowl, I think, is a playoff season, right?
So that'll be very exciting for Indiana when they are in the playoff and in the Rose Bowl.
When they're in the playoff?
Wow. I like where this show's going. Two things here. I just want to... It's really important that we in the industry don't try and act like we know everything that's happening as it happens. Right now, I think both Penn State and Michigan in both situations are really deserving of like a longer look. And I'm not convinced that the wheels are falling off at either program. I do think there's more of a systemic issue at Michigan, where Penn State has seemingly fallen off of a cliff relative to the average that they had established under Franklin. I think this is a weird year. We've said it all year. Context. There's a convergence of assistant changes. I think roster issues, just flat out not having certain positions deep going into this weird year. So it's a lot of things, and it's nothing at the same time. This is one where we can say, hey, we don't know how bad it's going to get, and we don't know how long-term this is going to be, and that's okay. Last thing, just real quick, want to complain? I'm already sick of this Twitter stuff where the Big Ten sucks so bad Indiana's the second-best team. If this was the Southeastern Conference and a Mississippi State or South Carolina was having an ascendant-type year after years and years and years of development, we would not be talking like this, flat out. Indiana is good because they hung on to a coach who recruited his ass off in a place that was really hard to do. He combined his expertise in Florida and his knowledge of his home state. They developed, did their own thing with their own guys. They play really good defense, usually. This is something that took 6-7 years to do. They lost a lot of close games. Seriously, put some respect on the name. I'm sick of this joke already, and it was everywhere yesterday.
Yeah, respect to the Hoosiers. Elsewhere in the Big Ten, Northwestern 21, Nebraska 13. Thank goodness that Nebraska fought so hard for its right to be 0-3 or 0-2, but it would be 0-3 if they played Wisconsin, and to lose a rock fight to Northwestern. I'm sure it was fun. Iowa 49, Michigan State 7. Good Lord, that somehow that doesn't look good on anybody. I mean, I guess it looks good on Iowa, but Jesus.
Michigan State's a volatile entity. That's the only thing I can say there. As far as Northwestern goes, we made fun of them a lot because they sucked in that 4-8 season. Go back and look at those games. It was 13-10 Nebraska last year. If this Northwestern defense gets an offense that can literally score 19 or 20 points a game, they're going to be 8-4 instead of 4-8.
Interesting. I think everybody saw that Michigan State against Michigan was a blackout game when the quarterback blacked out and they figured it out. All right. Okay. Liberty 38. Yes, Liberty 38. Virginia Tech 35. Okay. You want to talk about thrill of victory, agony of defeat stuff? Liberty lines up to kick like a 60-yard field goal to potentially win this game instead of go to overtime. It's tied at 35. And then this happens.
Kick 6 in the Iron Bowl, anybody? He's got the leg. Let's see what he can do if he can get it up high enough to not get blocked.
First attempt from over 50. Snap is good. Hold is good. Kick is blocked. And it's picked up by Jermaine Waller. And Waller is rushing. And there is nothing in front of him but clean mountain air. Touchdown, Virginia Tech Hokies. And the Hokies have won the football game.
The Virginia Tech Radio Network from Learfield IMG College. Honestly, it's a really incredible call. But, dear listener, the Hokies did not win the football game, as you know. Justin Fuente had taken a timeout unbeknownst to anyone, and I think the broadcasters, because I don't think the broadcasters were in Lane Stadium. That's a remote broadcaster thing. Because if you listen to it on the TV broadcast, you can hear the whistle when the snap comes, and you can hear that it's going to be a timeout, obviously, even though Virginia Tech is blocking it running out the gate. Liberty then runs a play with 6 seconds left. Gets the first down. The receiver gets out of bounds, and they get to take a second crack, and the field goal is now 51 yards. And I'll just let Alan York of the Liberty Radio Network take it away.
Snap, spot, kick, has the leg. It is good! With 1 second left, Alex Barbier from 51 yards out has given the Flames the lead, 38-35.
Alex Kirshner, you have the floor.
Oh boy. Oh boy, Justin Fuente. Man. People who follow my writing or follow me on Twitter or listen to this podcast know that I basically like to fire a coach and disgrace his entire family every week. So I understand if this will sound contrived, but Justin Fuente messed up the end of this game in a more varied and more profound way than any coach I have ever seen mess up the end of a game. It was really, really, really bad. It starts with letting Liberty have a free kick at that 60-yard field goal, 59-yard field goal, by not taking the timeout until right before the snap, which is dumb because it gives Liberty more information, right? Like, you know, after Liberty has a field goal blocked and returned for a game-losing touchdown, that gives Hugh Freeze a chance to be like, well, maybe we shouldn't do that again. They don't. And then when Liberty resolves to run another offensive play with like 8 seconds left, what does Virginia Tech do? They back everybody into prevent, even though there is plenty of time for Liberty to pick up a few more yards and a first down and get out of bounds and kick a shorter field goal. It was
honestly pretty insane coaching.
There was
a really good coach.
It was good by Liberty, but there was nobody covering a Liberty receiver on the left side to the quarterback's left. He catches the ball, takes free yards that literally like Godfrey's adorable toddlers could have gotten these free yards. Like any of us on this podcast could have gotten those free yards to set up a shorter field goal.
Just want to go ahead and point out, I've got a 3-year-old. He's going to be a perfect, like, Jeff Brom's offensive system tight end. He can cut block.
That's an H-back.
He can cut block already. I just want to. He's very good in motion. The bidding is open if you would like to talk about paying me cash money for my son's services.
This was an act of sabotage by Justin Fuente. Not only did he mess up and cost Virginia Tech a win via the blocked field goal that got returned, he said he wanted to make sure he had the right field goal blocking unit in the game. Well, Justin, you did. And he has now handed Liberty a program-defining win, just as he did with Old Dominion a couple years ago.
Part of me wonders if the block only happened because potentially some of Liberty's protectors switched off because they heard the whistle. I don't know. I probably need to watch it again. Because I just sort of watched it quickly this morning. But part of me wonders thinking, did Liberty's protection switch off a little bit because they heard the whistle and let it in, and then it blocks and it goes out the gate?
I've never seen a narrative shift like this. I could talk for 3 days about this. I've never seen a single moment create such a polarizing referendum where I even tweeted out, I just yelled Beamer ball when it happened, because this could have been... I know it's just Liberty, but you have to understand all the circumstances that are going into the steady loss of faith in Fuente as a program leader and how far afield Virginia Tech looks from its former self. To have won a game like that against Hugh Freeze, by the way, because Freeze and Fuente have a history when Fuente was at Memphis, it was unbelievable. I'm still thinking about it. I know Notre Dame stole the day yesterday, but this is just, it's unbelievable. it even overshadows how bad I think Virginia Tech looks in a game like this against a team like Liberty. Liberty was 4-4 on fourth down. They ran when they needed to, when they wanted to, with ease and aplomb. They almost had 250 on the ground. I just can't understand. I'm still stuttering about how to contextualize this in regards to Virginia Tech, and we can talk about the coaching change later. But I'm still shocked.
Miami 44, NC State 21.
41.
I was paying attention to 41, sorry. I was paying attention to a bigger deal on Friday night. Godfrey?
Okay. It's okay to change your narratives. It's okay to change your editorial content, all right? I have said all season long that Miami needed to do the basic things to be competent, and that would be a sign of growth. I still believe Miami's headed in the right direction, but when you really actually scrutinize some of their wins, and I think this NC State one was so emblematic of it, they're actually really kind of sloppy, and they're just using De'Ara King's talent to get themselves out of dumb situations. So, like, the more and more you look at, actually, by the way, at the end of the game, he fell down to just close it out instead of running for a touchdown and thus causing a potential window for any number of things to happen.
Some of us didn't like it. Some of us didn't like it when he fell down before the end zone there.
Y'all.
I think it would have been nice to see him go for the throat a little bit.
Please do that, y'all. Just do the smart thing. I may be talking directly to Todd Gurley right now, but Miami is resilient because they are athletic, and that is okay to be enough this year. They've had COVID losses. The defense looked like ass for significant portions of this game to let NC State have chunk play after chunk play in passing. Like, their secondary just looked confused for the majority of this game. But one thing that we can say about Miami that we haven't been able to for a long time is that their athleticism and the effort, specifically in this one quarterback position, is winning them games. It's winning them back into games. Okay, so I'm still bullish on Miami, but you do notice some like sloppy ass tendencies and stuff. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. They're still fun. It may fall apart next year if they don't fix some of this stuff because he's not gonna be there.
Pitt 41, Florida State 17. Pitt has been as big a mess as any team in the country for a month. It turns out the cure to that is playing Florida State. North Carolina 56, Duke 24. In concert.
Buddy,
yeah, go ahead.
Cut. It might be time. It might be time to roll out into the sunset.
Yes, it's okay. It's time. It's okay to say that. I respect that, man. It's time, y'all.
It's clearly time. Also, Godfrey's going to be livid about the fact that he's going to be once again livid that North Carolina lost to Florida State, which feels more and more impossible with each passing week.
It's just the dumbest take I've had this year, and that was the loss they took. This was not turn the corner Florida State. They are still resoundingly ass as well.
They're very, very bad, like really bad. Like I was shocked that Pitt beat up on them the way that they did, given how things have been going. In the Big 12, Oklahoma State 20, Kansas State 18. Oklahoma State's defense is still good, but I think we can all agree that we do not at this point need to spend time talking about this seriously like a playoff team or like they are going to beat Oklahoma multiple times and make the playoff. Thank you. Texas 17, West Virginia 13. Just a disgusting event here.
West Virginia covers by half a point. It wasn't that.
Yeah, so you can do a quick narrative thing here where you just say, okay, this is a great example of how Neil Brown can somehow close these gaps against more talented teams. And it's like a really successful boxer who just wins on jabs over and over again. This has been his MO. This is kind of what he does. Or conversely, we can turn the table around and figure out that, like, Texas, you are grossly underperforming. Flat out, you are grossly underperforming.
I think I may have said Texas was like competent on offense. I'm gonna have to go back and watch this because I didn't really get to see much of it.
No, they're not.
I'm probably wrong.
Yeah, they're definitely not, because let me let you guys in on something. West Virginia is extremely under construction on defense. This was not some sort of like schematic chess match win for the ears. This was just Chris Ash is the smartest coach on this staff right now. It looks like.
Iowa State 38, Baylor 31. Oklahoma 62, Kansas 9. Alex, give me 20 seconds on Kansas.
Well, I'm just putting it out there. This might be the worst Kansas team of this post-2007 Todd Reesing Kansas. they are exceptionally bad.
I just can't wait for Jeff Long to get yet another job where he spends an insane amount of money, ostracizes the boosters, and hires a completely terrible fit with a Michigan connection and screws up another program.
USC 28, Arizona State 27. This is a game I want to go back and watch again. I didn't have time this morning. Arizona State whipped USC's ass for like 3 quarters up front, 3.5
3.5
up front. And then USC won the game. I really want to watch this.
Well, USC recovered an onside kick, which is kind of like I didn't know that was still legal to do, and to not have it come back on a penalty for illegal touching or something. Very disappointing for Arizona State, which has had not only a lot of momentum on the field in the last year, but also was like shockingly better in recruiting the state of California in the last cycle than anybody. Like they dragged more 4 stars and 5 stars. I think it was almost all 4 stars out of California last year than any program in the country, certainly including USC. And this would have been a great, like, bye Clay, see you later, we're getting you fired now moment for them, and they just didn't do it.
Still might happen. I was throw that out there. Maybe check Banner Society the next couple of days. Not that he's going to get fired this week. I'm just saying I think it's still on the table. I'm buying Arizona State completely. Throw out the result of this game. That's not the point of the long-term study here. This is the program in the Pac-12 South for the future. Everything they're doing is right. It was pointed out to me by a listener, and I wish I had it in front of me on Twitter. On one of my old podcasts, apparently when Sumlin and Herm were hired, I said that I was buying Herm as the better hire at the time, and I don't remember saying this. So I'm going to take a victory lap and claim that I said that now, because Arizona State is the most complete program in the Pac-12 South for the next couple of years.
30-second drill. We're going to play through the whistle here. Okay, Oregon 35, Stanford 14. Jet Toner's a good kicker, missed 4 field goals in this game. I think there was some real weak one-iness afoot. The problem is, I think one of these teams is talented enough to really get better, and I'm not sure the other one is. Oregon showed some convincing things. They looked pretty good on offense, looked fairly good on defense against Stanford. Oh, boy, Stanford. Oh, boy. I don't know, man. I don't know. Had the starting QB out. I'll give them credit that maybe they get better moving forward. But really and truly ugly. Colorado 48, UCLA 42. Quickly, what?
So I watched this for a while, and I just want to come clean about this, and I said this at the time. I legit, when Carl Durrell got that job back right before the pandemic started, I forgot that Carl Durrell was an entity. I did not remember him. I guess he's just been toiling in the NFL for a long time. But apparently he's been picking up some good ideas while he's been there, because Colorado's offense was knife through butter for most of this game. And it's not like UCLA really does the whole defense thing, but you still got to score 48 points.
Yeah. This is just, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to punt, and let's figure out how to explain both Colorado as a buyer beware job and what the hell UCLA is at a later date, because we've got more stuff to get through.
We do. Quickly, I want to talk about some unbeatens. We are, of course, through the whistle already. Cincinnati 38, Houston 10. Cincinnati just does this to somebody every week. And
putting Florida on notice, putting Notre Dame on notice, putting BYU on notice. This is my Skyline squad, baby. 4 seed. It's happening.
I am begging on bended knee these two teams, Cincinnati and BYU.
Yes.
Yeah.
Play
They've got
each
to,
other.
y'all.
Oh, my
They've
God.
got to.
BYU on Friday night kicked the ever-living shit out of Boise State, 51-17. Boise's top 2 QBs were both out. The backup Jack Sears went out early in this game. Hope he's doing okay. Does not change how jarring it is to watch Boise State get dog-walked on the blue turf.
Jack Sears don't play defense.
Yeah, no,
he doesn't.
The same rules that we put on Notre Dame Clemson apply here, honestly. They don't play defense. I will say this, though. Boise's offense just kept that defense their own defense exhausted all night long.
Yeah.
Dude, this dude, Zach Wilson, is #good. I don't like, this guy is a top 10 draft pick.
Yeah.
He is a top 10 draft
He's great.
I wish we could do more on this game, because it was actually quite fascinating, because I don't think anybody's ever dog-walked Boise on the blue like that.
No, it just doesn't happen.
They beat the shit out of them. And shout out Kalana Sitake, who knows that they need style points. Zach Wilson was in that game way later than he should be.
Yep.
BYU knows the game. They know
Cincinnati and BYU.
Coastal Carolina.
Cincinnati BYU could be throwing some fades with 4 minutes left in the game. Y'all just wait.
I'm just saying
Coastal
BYU.
Carolina 23, South Alabama 6. Sorry.
I was just say BYU. If Cincinnati doesn't play them, or if they don't want to do that, BYU can just go undefeated, which they are gonna do. They only play North Alabama and San Diego State, and they can claim a national championship if they win some other New Year's Bowl. Just saying.
Marshall 51, UMass 10. Holy crap.
UMass got 10. UMass got 10.
UMass got 10. UMass got 10. Good teams win, great teams cover. Nevada 34, Utah State 9.
Bye.
Nevada
might be the second best or best team in the Mountain West, but Gary Anderson got fired. I think we all probably agree that was good.
I got some journalism coming on that. BannerSociety.com.
Well, legit.
Colorado 34, Wyoming 24. This game was tough to watch. Tough.
I watched this whole game. I don't know why.
Sicko.
What? Yeah.
Who would watch this game? Who would gamble on this game live? I cannot imagine.
Not me.
I was curious because Adazio's had so much heat. I know we're running over. Adazio had a lot of palace intrigue going on and some heat because of the way he handled BLM and COVID. This was a huge win to pull his own ass out of the fire, but it was assisted greatly by one of the sloppiest Wyoming performances I have seen under Craig Bohl, who does the North Dakota State blueprint so well, and they beat themselves in the run game and penalties and turnovers. Very uncharacteristic for the Pokes, and this is their big rivalry game that they lost. First time in 5 years.
The boot goes to Fort Collins. Quickly, and then we will be done. FAU 10, Western Kentucky 6. FAU might be the most boring team in the country, but they're not bad. The MAC came back. Western Michigan really put a hurting on Akron, which has a long way to go, and I do not think is going to be justifying that first place vote in the MAC preseason poll.
No.
Elsewhere, not a whole. Miami and Ball State played a shootout. Miami won. Kent State beat EMU by less than they should have. And the Sun Belt race looking kind of interesting in the East. Coastal versus App State, November 21st. That's going to decide who sees the Raging Cajuns.
I want to believe Coastal. You're close. Just do a little bit more for me. I want to believe.
Coastal has Troy next Saturday.
That will help.
Coastal has Troy.
That will help me believe.
Coastal has Troy next Saturday. Stephen Godfrey, where can the people
At
find
38
you?
Godfrey on Instagram and Twitter, BannerSociety.com.
Alex.
At Twitter.com. Alex_Kirshner. No C.
You can find me on Twitter, RJ_writes. Georgia's blue.
Good ending.
Good. I was like, nope, just let it go. Hang on, stop it.
And because that could mean any number of things today.